back mega pod.
Like a marathon.
Yeah. I feel like we're kind of maybe DJing in Ibiza without any of the kind of the lights and stuff. But Ben is going to interview me or chat to me first, ask me questions, and then we're going to talk all things Seedlip, Seasn, your podcast, full shebang. So yeah, it's quite weird being the other side.
Yeah, it's quite nice being the other side, actually, getting to chat to you. I'm a massive fan of what you do, Dan, and I think we were just chatting beforehand and about the trials and the tribulations of running a podcast as you do, and doing it yourself, and just being fucking prolific and making it happen. And as you said to me, it's not about it being perfect. It's about getting things out there for people to listen to. Maybe we just start with why you wanted to start the podcast.
Yeah, really, it was a good question. I've never been asked that.
This is why we're doing this.
Yes, yeah. So why I started it. So if I actually go back 5 years before the podcast, I realised I was podcasting way before I even started a podcast. There wasn't a microphone.
Okay.
So curiosity is basically what it is. So with food and drink, when I was at Manny Life, I would, every day, I still do it now, I wake up and I read militantly on that, I write militant on that, and I would always try and meet 2 new people a week.
Okay. And
download their wisdom. I would just always do that. It was not like this is going to be a podcast, right? So that was the first thing. It was always about following my curiosity, and it just happened.
And where does that curiosity come from?
I think I've always been wanting to sort of just see what's behind the door or the curtain. That's the best way of saying it. So
yeah.
I've always just wanted to see how things are slightly different. Do you know what I mean? How, as we were talking about before we hit record, like curiosity and curriculum aren't the same thing.
Yep.
So at school, you're taught to, you have a wide palette of different things to try from: business studies, biology, maths, blah, 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 blah. And the thing they get right is to narrow you down into art or music, whatever. But the bit that I think they get wrong is the curriculum. Like, okay, you're going to do business. These are the business books you have to read, and then we're going to mark you on it, and you're going to regurgitate it. I remember being at school and uni, just sort of thinking, like, hang on a sec, why the fuck are we doing that? Like, why? I was sat in the lecture thinking, why is that the way this is meant to be? Like, and I always felt like I had this insatiable curiosity, which was imprisoned by the curriculum system.
Yep.
And that way of doing things. So then as soon as I left uni, I was like, okay, amazing. So I can just I can follow that curiosity.
But were you a good student at school?
I was always predicted bad grades.
Okay.
Always predicted, always felt like the underdog in everything. And I think the first kind of example of that was a bit of a porker at school. I've always struggled. I love food, mate. I love food so much.
Yeah.
And I remember it was like I was 13, so final year of prep school.
Yep.
And I wasn't good enough to do athletics, and I wasn't good enough to do cricket. So they were like, "Oh, there's nothing for you to really do." So I was like, "Okay, well that's a bit weird." So I just started running, religiously running. And so say people would, around the 400 meter track.
Yeah.
Say people would do like I'll do an extra 4 laps. Just kept running and running and running. I was like, I had this. That was the first chip. I've got a lot of chips on my shoulder, a lot of insecurities. But this was the sort of first one I think sets the scene nicely. And so I just kept running and running and running and running, lost loads of weight. And then I'd never run before, ever.
What did that running do for you, though? So then I got, I broke all the school records.
I'm not even
Brilliant,
joking. Yeah, and
brilliant.
then I became really good at cross country.
Brilliant.
So what that taught me was, and this links to the podcast, is one, I'm not listening to what the authority tell me what to do, is the first thing. Two, I'll follow my own curiosity and my own way of, whether that's training or learning. Like it's just kind of thinking, why are we looking at like this? Surely there's a different, and as I say, it's like peeling behind the curtain or looking at it from just an oblique, maybe kind of ancillary angle. So it's sort of the combination of those two things early of what kind of laid the bed to start the podcast, if that makes sense.
So effectively, school said to you, you can't do this.
Yeah.
And you kind of said, fuck you. Sorry, we both swear quite a bit.
Yeah.
Fuck you, I'm going to do this.
Exactly. And I think...
And it worked, right? You lost weight. I presume felt better about yourself.
Yeah.
And then smashed loads of records.
Yeah, so that was the first
like
point.
It
I
was
was like,
win.
Yeah, but it was the first time I was like, well, if I just take things into my own hands, then I'm in the driving seat. When I got to going to university, they predicted me shit grades. And I don't know, I mean, it's hilarious now.
What did you study?
I did history, English, and business studies.
At A level?
At A level, yeah.
Okay.
And anyway, but they predicted me shit grades.
Yep.
So they're like, oh, you can't go into a Russell Group university, mate. And at the time, everyone's wanking over Russell Group university. So I need to get into Russell Group university.
Yes.
So I ended up going to Bournemouth.
Okay.
Because, got really good A levels. Again, another thing of doubt me, watch this kind of thing.
Okay.
And so got good A levels, but then still decided to go to Bournemouth because it looked like a party, basically.
Yeah. To study
business.
Okay.
Didn't really sort of think about it. Went to Bournemouth and then was partying like way too much, and ended up dropping out. And because I was like, this is a car crash. This is a car crash. It's like, I remember being in a lecture theatre. I don't know what this, but some bloke behind me was like, yo, miss, yeah? Like, it was like something out of, like, People Just Do Nothing, right? Yeah. I was thinking, hang on a second, I've worked my bollocks off. Like, surely I can do better than this. So anyway, left, ended up went back home, working in a pub, and was trying to find a Russell Group uni, which, I mean, looking retrospectively, it was all just superfluous where you go to uni. But at the time, you're like, this is really important.
Yep.
And ended up going to Manchester, which was even more kind of crazy.
Yep.
But that was super fun. But it's always been...
To study?
Entrepreneurship, sustainability, and... entrepreneurship, sustainability... I think that was it. But there was this one lecturer, and he actually changed my life, right? So
shout him out.
I've forgotten his name, but he was an absolute G. But he was basically it was a bit like David Brent meets lecture theatre, right? So he comes in, it's like it was one of those sort of more module kind of places, and it's like the David Brent, like, get out. If you don't want a beer, get out.
Yeah,
But he was like, we're gonna crack the whip here. And he was like, why would you go and do a corporate job? It was a degree about philosophy, entrepreneurship, and philosophy and entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, like
nice.
that got my curiosity going like wildfire. So all the other lectures, I'm reading books about like how to do accounts.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? And I had to resit that because if it's numbers, I'm not doing it. But this guy, we were reading books like Tom Wolfe, Bonfire Vanities, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Oh my God, what's that book by The Unbearable Lightness of Being? All these crazy philosophical books. And then the guy was like pulling it into entrepreneurship.
Yeah, wonderful.
So that was kind of how the podcast, the curiosity came around from being told you're not good enough.
Yep.
I think is where it came from.
So because it strikes me that lots of the amazing people that you've had on the podcast, and from the outside, it seems like a big theme.
Yeah, I'm just taking these. Yeah.
Seems like a big theme is this challenger kind of brands or challenger mentality, entrepreneurship obviously goes along with that. And yeah, it makes sense that that's what you're attracted to, because that's part of you and part of who you are and where you've come from, that they're the kind of people you want to chat and meet and go for coffee with and then start a podcast. But take me back to you're having coffees 2 a week, meeting interesting people. Where does the decision to then start recording those conversations come in?
So again, probably to set the scene, go back a few steps. So was always writing on LinkedIn. Was always writing. I've got like a very militant day, which is read kind of OCD 35 minutes, write 57 minutes. It's a weird kind of OCD of mine, but every single day without fail. And then was writing these.
You don't have kids?
No. I don't have kids. And that was more for my learnings at Money Life. And I don't know, I just find it truly joyful.
And what's the difference to you what's the difference in benefit or impact between reading versus writing?
They're two sides of the same coin.
Okay.
So I believe the way I sort of see it is the curiosity turns the engine on. The writing directs where the car's going. Do you know what I mean? You need the two to tango. So curiosity precedes. It's a virtuous circle, right?
Yep.
But I think the reading is kind of just gets me in the mode to do it. And if you're reading something great, like there's a moment, I think awe is one of my fascinations, like the sublime and the awe. And I'm reading Truman Capote's In Cold Blood, which is sick. Which is all about like a murder that happened in whenever. But there's a line, like sometimes I'll read a line, I'll read with a pen, and I'll be like, I'm trying to think of the line. He talked about the snow being like sheep, hip high, sheep slaughteringly high snow. And that image of just like, okay, the snow's not just high, it's sheep slaughteringly high.
Yeah.
So that is a moment of awe. And also because I write so much, I know the toil the writer's gone through to create. There'll be 5 other scenarios that he could have put there, but he's put that.
Yep.
So anyway, so just reading something like that really gets my brain going. And then when you go to write, it's almost like the reading's the training. It's the reps in the gym. The writing's the right, let's have it.
And what are you writing about?
So about challenger brands.
Okay.
Yeah, so all podcast questions.
Yep.
So sometimes like journaling. So it could be writing about a tough negotiation. Okay, this is the curriculum that's being presented to me. What's the ways around it?
And are you typing or are you handwriting?
Typing. Yeah. Techno, full volume. It's quite a maniacal morning. And I don't know, I just think it's a way of like, this sounds really like philosophically wanky for a Wednesday morning, but it's like more of like a way of being, doing those things. And I think it just allows you to see things differently. And I think so anyways, to go back to your question, as you probably know, I like to zigzag.
It's okay.
So that kind of curiosity was always there through writing. And I was publishing loads on LinkedIn. And actually, it'll be your friend, David Gluckman, right? Who, for listeners, is amazing, but he's slammed Seedlip. No end.
He hates me.
But it was during lockdown, and he'd found my writing, and he's got that book, that shit will never sell. And he was like, oh, should we have a call? And I was like, yeah, well, I've got nothing else to do. So I was like, fuck it, let's have a call. And then I was like, that would be amazing if I recorded that. So I basically went back to him and was like, hey, mate, like, well, I didn't say mate. I was like, hello, David. Dear David, would you like to do a podcast? I had no idea what it was on. It was on Skype. I was absolutely...
But this was lockdown, had to be remote, obviously.
Yeah.
Not as much, well, loads going on in the world, but not as much going on.
Yeah.
Because we're in our 4 walls.
And so that made it really easy to do things. It was kind of, yeah, let's do it. I remember vividly like getting a coffee, just being like, this is so scary. Didn't even put it on Spotify, didn't even put it on Apple, didn't even put it on, just put it on YouTube and just put it on LinkedIn and said, I've tried this thing. And that's why one of my values is prolific, not perfect, because I think perfect shackles you from prolific. Whereas always just moving at speed and ready, fire, aim of like, all right, this isn't ready, it's shit, but I'm going to ship it anyway. Unleash it to the world. And when you unleash something that's a little bit scraggly or squirrely, is one, it massively reduces expectations with the audience because it can only go up.
Yes.
2, you build momentum if you keep doing it. And 3, it just, I think we have this element, and I still have this now, of being so scared of putting ourselves out there, which I was terrified.
Yep.
I was like, well, if I put my best self out there, then I've got to keep hitting that. But if I put the shittest version, then it can only get better.
Aim low.
Yeah, aim low. And then be prolific and just keep trying to get better.
Yep.
And that was kind of how it started. We put the first one out. I think we got 50 views. I mean, and that was probably all my mates, to be honest.
I 50 times.
Yeah.
Just, check it's still there.
And it, but I loved it.
What did you love about it?
I loved when it's live or when it's recorded. And I know you've got podcasts as well, it's perfect to speak to you, but I think you can access a gear of brain power and curiosity that is beyond gear 5 and 6. And something happens when you just, when I press that button there, or you'll know this, right?
Yeah.
Is your brain starts moving, and again, back to this kind of thinking further out. Like, that's addictive. Like, there's no I've got very addictive personality. That is super addictive. Like, you're learning live, and you're.
But it's very rare, or to me, it's very rare to just sit down. You know, I got 3 kids, right, and loads of dogs, and it's chaos at home, and so it's very rare that my wife and I get to finish conversation, and it feels like, you know, and we're experiencing this, you know, right now, where I'm just listening to you then, I'm suddenly like, oh, this is so nice, actually, because we're just having a long conversation, and it's not a meeting, and it's not, would you like to buy this? It's not, what are the actions? It's not, what's the agenda? You know, and you kind of, I'm sort of like, oh, I just think about, though, you get moments like these that are actually quite rare, where you're just having a chat. Yeah, so I can see exactly what you mean by it's a sort of different zone and a slightly different headspace.
I also think because you don't check your phone for 2 hours. You know, I said it, oh, it's like finding gear 5 or 6. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just that gear's always there. It's just you're in gear 2 because you're so preoccupied with actions, checking Instagram. You know, I'm a LinkedIn fiend. You know, get the dopamine off that. It's like
to-do list, boom, boom, boom.
Whereas this, and that's why I like to go really long with the podcasts. Is because
how long was your first view?
The first one was atrocious. I actually interviewed David again because and that went really well. 30 minutes.
Okay.
And I was just thinking, as I was doing the conversation, I was like, this is shit, you're shit, why are you bothering doing this? No one's gonna like this, you're waffling your words. In fact, it was probably the first maybe 20, 25 episodes where that voice was just there. It's just like, this is awful. The guest thinks, you know, because I remember interviewing Charlie Bigham, right? And Perry, my friend, and they now sponsor the podcast, actually, Big Fish, had introduced me to him. And I was in my flat, I was living in London, I was living in Fulham. And I was so nervous. I'm not even, this isn't this is just God's honest truth. I reckon I smoked about 16 fags, pacing up and down my kitchen film, going, "I'm a piece of shit. Who's he to speak to me?" And just, and I was like, "This is just awful. This is awful. It's not going well at all." But then you've got to get that rep and just put it out there and ship your work, because then you start to build the muscle, it's a muscle of just keep doing the rep and the rest will fall into place.
And so why did you then, or let me start again. How did you then keep going of like, okay, I've done one, I'm going to do another? Like, talk me through that sort of thinking of like, were you suddenly like, oh my God, I'm going to do a podcast and we're going to do this and this is going to be amazing? Or did you just think, shit, well, I quite enjoyed that. No idea if anyone else did. Hey, maybe I should do it again.
Yeah, it's a really good point, actually. I loved doing it. That was the main thing.
Yep.
And it basically meant, instead of having to go for coffee, having to have no excuse. Like, if I hadn't done the podcast, it would be very hard to speak to you for an hour when we chatted last time, right?
Yep.
But because you've got a podcast and you've got a passport to speak to access some of the most interesting people in the world. So instead of having coffees around here or whatever, I could go, it was a passport to the top, is essentially how I saw it. I was like, okay, this is sick. So...
And it's a win. It's a win-win, right? You get to meet people you want to talk to and have conversations with, and it just so happens that they're being recorded and they're free for everyone else to listen to. I mean, like, that sounds like a real win-win for you.
Yeah, it's a complete win-win. And I think, and also I genuinely believe you learn something from everyone. Like, no matter you're big, small, a cab driver you'll meet on the street, someone like who works in wherever, like, you learn something from everyone. And the piece of wisdom came from episode 2 that I have on like I do a talk about the podcast, all the learnings, I do a talk. And I've interviewed some amazing people. But there's a guest who was episode number 2 that no one would have heard of, wasn't really in food and drink, called Alistair Herbert. And he's got a business all about language and how to use language to... He combines AI with language to help brands kind of create emotional hooks.
Nice.
Super interesting guy. But this was like before the whole AI, thing.
I mean, the irony of AI and emotion.
It's hilarious. Yeah, it's hugely ironic. But he's a voracious reader as well, and he taught me this thing, and he's got this like super quirky guy. It was in lockdown, so he was having beers, and you could hear the seagulls in Brighton. Just like loads of books behind him. I was like, this is amazing. And he was like, there's 3 types of language. And I talk about this all the time now. There's I don't want to butcher this now. There's factual language, sensory language, and picture language.
Okay.
So brands obsess with factual language because that goes for the head. Corporate social responsibility, very hard to digest language. Corporate social responsibility in food and drink, sort of triple distilled.
Yeah, claims.
Claims, prebiotic, probiotic, hyalaic peanuts is one we used. In some respects, almost seed to bar chocolate. Like, it's good language, but brands obsess with it because they think, oh my God, it makes us seem more haughty and better than we are.
Yep.
There's that type of language. Second type of language is sensory language, which is kind of moving from head to heart, is more like really delicious, ultra tasty chocolate for things.
Adjectives,
essentially. Then there's pitch language, and pitch language is what is basically what goes in, like, is a hook into here. So the one I always use is like delicious delicious chocolate will send your taste buds gallivanting around a different gastronomic galaxy. Like, it's fucking chocolate. It's polishing a turd, right? But like, you get what I mean?
It's a mouthful.
It's a mouthful.
Literally.
But he taught me that. That episode's probably got 20 downloads. But I was like, okay, well, this doesn't matter because I'm winning because, and I still use that. I use that in presentation decks, and everyone's like, that slide was the one, and that came from a guest that probably most people won't listen and know. Do you know what I mean? And that gave me the thing. It's like, you'll learn from anyone.
Hey guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Honestly, means the absolute world to me. I'd be so grateful for a small favour, please. It is so hard growing a YouTube channel. It is so bloody hard. If you please enjoy these videos, just click the subscribe button. More subscribers equals bigger guests equals better conversations, and hopefully you can learn more as you build your food and drink brand. Thank you so much.
Yes, and I definitely subscribe to that. As we've, we were just sort of discussing before, I was observing more like, because I wasn't doing anything to help. We got like plugs and phones and microphones, and everything's got to work and everything's got to switch on. Like, just give me some of the behind the scenes, like, let's lift the curtain on on actually like making a podcast give me some of the horror stories on
Oh God. So
the trials and tribulations of it.
yeah. So I think the first one, which I was kind of telling you about before we hit record, is I was really insecure that I didn't have the right kit. I felt a bit like at school. I was like, "Mummy, why haven't I got the best cricket bat?" Spoiled little brat, right? Yeah. Give me the best cricket bat. I felt like I had some shitty cricket bat going out to play cricket, whatever. But and so I was like, right, I'm going to rent all this kit. I want it to be a banging podcast. So I knew a guy through Wilf who'd done loads of videos for Islands Chocolate, the chocolate brand I did work with. And I was recording with Wilf, had that exact recorder, and I was like, right, this is the moment. This is my moment.
I'm big time.
Yeah. Anyway, it was lugging around these 4K cameras, which are about the size. Well, you use them, right? They're the size of basketballs, 3 of them. And I was in Wilf's kitchen, and I genuinely spent maybe an hour and a half setting them up.
Yeah. Poker.
Yeah. Get the angles right. I was like, mate, I need your angle. You've got a good jawline, and turned it on. Well, no, in fact, I didn't turn it on. So I did the full hour podcast, and I looked at him. I was like, mate, it hasn't recorded. And I was just like, this is just awful. This is so bad. I think, get the kit. The kit is always the nightmare. I've had a few instances where, I can't say the guest because it'll piss them off, but like the other week we had a really big guest that just didn't record the video. And I'm sat in this office thinking, you're fucking joking me.
What do you mean? They didn't come?
No, as in the video didn't record.
It didn't record.
Yeah. In fact, let me just check that whilst. So there's that. There's instances where, and again, I won't say the guest, but when you're starting out, you've got no, like, there's no. I'm not saying I've got gravitas now in the podcast, but you're kind of. I wasn't a founder. I wasn't. So I always felt insecure about that. I wasn't. All I was doing was following my curiosity. I was like, I like to talk, I like to communicate, and I like learning. But I always felt, and even only when I went full time with it. Now I'm trying to find it with build a media company, and like potentially like an investment kind of portfolio as well. That kind of has begun to sort of temper and dissipate.
You are a founder.
Yeah, well, yeah, but as in, yeah, exactly.
You are.
But before that, I wasn't. So I was just a wholesale manager who had a chip on my shoulder. So I remember once, I can't say who it was. I'll tell you afterwards. But I was so nervous for the first, as I said, 20 to 30.
But what nervous about what?
Nervous about, is this going to be good?
Okay.
Will this person respect me? Will this person like me? Which is you'll go insane doing that, which is I've now kind of got rid of that one. Am I eating up too much of their time?
Will we have anything to talk about?
Will we have anything to talk about? Anyway, so I was in that same flat in Fulham. I was probably on a vape this time to chill me out. And the guy rocked up on his phone and was like walking around the house, a bit like it was FaceTime. And I was like, I sort of was like, mate, like, is this for real? Like, I was, and looking back, I should have just said, you're clearly busy. This is clearly not of interest to you. Let's park it here and we'll come back to that.
So wait, he was on a call?
No, he was in his pajamas. Like, It was like he just literally rolled out of bed.
Okay. Doing the recording,
walking around the house on his phone. Okay. I was like, mate, like, you're not looking at me. You're not kind of respected me. I was like, look, I've put a lot of effort into this.
Yep.
So I think that's been a big learning is getting over that fear. I think I've had again, I'll tell you all these people afterwards, asking the questions. It was on Zoom. And so you're interviewing me.
Yeah.
So he'd ask the question, you'd ask me the question, and he would go like this. And I just literally started walking around. And I was like, your kind of anger and frustrations bubbling. Like, I was like, mate, like, what? Like, seriously. But it ended up being fine. So I think there's a lot of those things that people don't really see.
What's the longest it's taken to get a guest on?
That's a good question. So I'll tell you who I'm trying, like, for life or money.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you know them. This would make my day.
Let's try.
So I have been sending the founders of Dishoom, Kavi and Shamil, I reckon 40 emails. I've sent them gifts. I've sent them everything.
What gifts have you sent?
I've sent them like a chocolate hamper. I've sent them everything. I've like literally sent them everything. Well, not everything. I've sent them fucking chocolate. But, and they're like, I'm like, look, you've got a new restaurant. I was like, I'll come down to Brighton. Let's do this. I can be there. But they're super busy. But I will like.
Do they do podcast interviews?
Not really.
Okay.
So do
they do much press?
They don't really, not really. So,
okay.
But you know, beg, still borrow. So
why do you want them on the podcast?
Because I can't get it. But no, that's right. Because they've got amazing business. But there's a part of me that's like, I know you want to do this, and I've gone through the
before emails tells you they don't.
No, but as in like he just replied to me. Kavi replied to me the other day saying, look, like, we really want to do this, we just don't have the time. I'm like, right, I'll be back, just wait for me. So that one was interesting. Obviously, they know Rory Sutherland, really good pals with Rory Sutherland. Rory's introed me.
He's amazing.
The one I spent the most effort to get on was Julian Metcalf.
Okay.
So I don't know if you know Mark Palmer.
I do know Mark Palmer.
Yeah, he's great. So the other value within all of this, a bit like us, is you become mates with some super interesting people.
Yep.
Like, you know, we hang out now. It's amazing. But so I'd become good friends with Mark, and I was like, I'm going to get Julian Metcalf on the fucking podcast, right? I'm going to do this. And so I sent Mark a text saying, have you got Julian's details? And he was like, here's his details. As a word of warning, he's notoriously difficult in PR. He doesn't really do PR. And he's only ever done 2 podcasts. Okay. Stephen Bartlett and Mary Portis.
Okay.
And I listened, and I was like, right, sweet, game on. So I reckon I spent maybe 11 hours cumulatively on this cold email. And I was like, there's no way he cannot say no to this, right? And
why was it a no-brainer email that you think that you'd created?
So I'd listened to every podcast he'd been on.
Okay.
I'd got 4 highlights of these things you said are interesting. Well, let's go start to finish.
Yeah.
First thing was build trust. I know Mark's been on the podcast 3 times. Second thing, I appreciate...
Can't keep him off it.
Yeah. Appreciate you're super busy. And this is the... So, and then I always bold this, so absolutely no expectations on getting back to me. Because every other man and his dog, or woman and his dog, or whatever, is going, oh, can I have a fancy podcast? Just being annoying. Mm-hmm. Then I'd done the homework of, these are the things you said, I thought these were amazing. These are what I would love to talk to you about. So it's like, I've already prepped the interview. Mm-hmm. These are the other guests. And once you've got a good stream of social proof, and then I always finish with, not like, one thing that does my head in is, looking forward to hearing from you, or all the best. Fuck that. I hope...
We do a whole episode on fucking emails, man.
God, yeah. But the thing is people are so lackadaisical with emails.
Yep. How long was it, though?
Long. So
now, okay.
So we'll talk about that. So long, well, in a sec. But anyway, so hope, everyone loves hope. Yep. We're already on the same side of the table.
Yes.
Can somehow, so it's open, make this happen. When I'm getting guests, I always end with that. Because I think I said it to Sarah about us doing this.
Yes.
Hope we can somehow make this happen. Because it's that is basically what a founder's journey is.
No, I love the we and the happen there, because like you say, there's far too many all the bests, and I look forward to your thoughts. I mean, I have a 5-sentence rule for emails. I take email psychology, I take really very fucking seriously.
It's so to your point about like how long is it? Don't go in the middle, because the middle is where everyone is. So if you're going to go long, go really long. Yeah. Because it's like they'll be fucking hell. This guy's really put a lot of effort into this. Yeah. So I went very long. I
quite like I've started doing this a little bit, which is the very short email attachment with the length. So that someone doesn't open an email and go, read later. They go, oh, short email. And then all the long, and then you want them to click the attachment, and then you kind of got them.
Yep.
Because, I'm with you. Like, either keep it short or not in the middle, not sort of 3 paragraphs.
And also, I've talked about this I talk about emails all the time, is think like Fleet Street. Why do people pick up papers every day?
Yep.
There's some rationale in that is true.
Yep.
Why are people not reading your cold emails a day? What's the difference? One, the punchy headline. Like I've said some god awful things. I was like, I think I've said, please tell me to fuck off loads of times as a subject line, which gets their attention. It sounds so David Brent, but it's like, feel free to tell me to fuck off.
Has anyone emailed back going, fuck off?
No, just no reply. But you get these things. And so that's the first thing. And then people are picking up a Metro because of the image on the front. Mm-hmm. So punctuating your outreach with pictures works a charm, because then people are like, oh my God, they say, and it's ironic, a picture paints 1,000 words, right? But it really does. And I think I'm trying to get hold of Marcus Waring.
Yep.
Again, that's been a lengthy.
But wait, go back to Julian. You composed this wonderful email.
The other hack: founders always work Sunday night, pretty much, because they're prepping for the week.
Yep.
And it's kind of like, so I always send the email if I want a big guest about 8 p.m. on a Sunday night, because I know they'll be probably watching the TV with a glass of red if they drink. So that inbox, their time is quiet. He literally replied within 30 seconds, like, sure, honoured, I'll do it. I was walking around the house, I was going, fucking come on, boy. I was like, come on, boy. Which was amazing. That was probably one of the most terrifying interviews I've done.
So wait, because it's lovely to get that, like, instant dopamine, I'm in, let's do it.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to write those words if you're Julia Metcalf, sat on the sofa on a Sunday night, to just go, yeah, cool, let's do it. Then it's then the challenge happens, right? Of like actually making it happen to actually hearing back from them again. So you got to email them again. You got to go details. You got to go, when can you do? Tell me about that bit.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually.
Because it's easy to say yes, right?
Yeah. So, and I'm now you're playing this back to me. The amount of people who've said yes, and then it doesn't materialize. So, short date. So if they say yes, don't. It's November when we're recording this, or maybe December. Yeah, November. Try and get that interview in the next 2 weeks.
Because this is all of everything that we're talking about now is exactly the same as like trying to get a meeting with a buyer, trying to get a journalist to write about you, trying to get this is all the same stuff, right?
Yeah. No, for sure. And so pin down a time, go back with. I keep it really simple. So I can either do 10 till 12, so I get 2 hours, 10 till 12 or 3 till 5. Those are my slots. In the middle of the day, I'm really like lethargic. Do these dates work? Basically, try and just beg, steal, or borrow, pin them down. And once they've said yes, it kind of gives you permission to be a bit more pushy. I think.
Agree.
At the beginning, you've got to be super like.
Tell me to fuck off.
Yeah, tell me to fuck off. With Dishoom, I'm like a bit like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll be back, but
you've got to be ringmaster. Then you do have to sort of take control, right?
Yeah. So then it's like let's do this. This is the date. I think what also helps is saying I'll come to you.
Yes.
It just makes it way more. It makes it so easy for them to say yes. So I'll be at your office on this date. Does that work? So that's kind of how we secure it. I've obviously, when I'll tell you these people after, I had a very big one of the most downloaded, cancel 3 times. And then I got an email saying, look, I just don't think I'm going to have the time to do this. Sorry. So I went back within like a minute saying, really appreciate that. I've put in plus 14 hours of prep for this. We need to do this. I'm sorry, but like it's 2 hours of your time.
Mate.
Yeah, and then he was like, right, we'll do it, and then we did it. So, so I think you can always.
Would you have done that kind of thing, in those first 20 episodes?
So that's so the guy was walking around with his pajamas. I was so just run me over.
Yeah.
Like I'm not founder.
Yes.
Who am I? Whereas with him, it was like, this needs to happen. So I think you build the confidence.
Yes, that's great though. That's really...
Yeah. And I think you can use that in brands as well. In terms of, or in anything, like getting your kids off swimming. Like, no, my kid really is sick.
Yeah.
Like, she's been in bed and, time helps with that. So that's kind of that. And then in terms of the prep, that's when it can get hard.
Tell me about your prep.
So the prep is 3 drafts.
Okay.
I love a quote by Ernest Hemingway, which is the first draft of everything is shit.
Shitty first draft.
Yeah, you need a lot of lead to find gold, which I always talk about. But it kind of looks like a very blank canvas of just dunk in as much information. That's what I did when we first chat. I found out about your Ps, the fact you collect penguin books, all these weird random things. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, as in not your collections. I'll collect a kind of a cornucopia of different bits and bobs.
Yep.
Get that, and then which is that's to me is not prep, but that's joyous. Like I'm winning doing that prep, and then you kind of prep it. Then I'll do the second draft, and that's when I create space. I'm like, okay, well, and you need to almost take 2-3 days off and go back to it. Like, okay, does that work? Does that work? Was that interesting? Is that not interesting? Has he talked about this? Has she talked about that? So with Julian Betgarth, on Stephen Bartlett, who did a great job, they went a lot into the dark trauma. He went a lot into his dad committing suicide, which was super sad. He went a lot into kind of the dark shadow of being a founder, and he went in a lot into Pret. So it's like, okay, so that's that done. Mary Portas, kind of the same wheelhouse. I was like, well, if I just do that, then he's done that, and that's just not going to work. Well, not that it's not going to work, but it's not going to get the bite. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
So I was like, okay, let's take a step back. And I was like, well, we haven't talked about Japan. Japan's one of the most interesting countries in the world. Itsu's super interesting. So I was like, okay, that's piquing my curiosity. That's a path. Let's go down there. So then it's, okay, start pulling up shit on Japan. So the Book of Five Rings, which is a book about samurais. I was like, oh, founders are a bit like samurais, really. They're so brave, bold. That's interesting. Let's talk about that. Okay, so I think it's a bit reductionist to think all founders are so depressed and sad. That's why they've started a business. Like, I really disagree with that.
Yep.
I think it's one part of the oil or the petrol that goes into the tank.
Yes.
It's not the only thing.
No.
It's like you didn't start Seedlip because there probably was elements of that, of like, fuck you, prove you wrong. But also, like, it's sick to create a brand. Let's help people stop drinking.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's play on the positive angle. Anyway, you get all those things down. I was shitting myself I was like, this is the scariest thing I've ever done. I was like, how am I to interview Julian Metcalf? I was like, this is mental.
Do you do any pre-calls? Do you do any,
No.
hey, here's what we're going to talk about? Do you ask them if there's anything off topic? Do you ask them if there's anything they want to talk about?
No, so I've always sort of lived by the quote of like, ask for
Forgiveness.
Ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah.
Because I think otherwise, I've had another instance, and we'll get back to Julian, where I was interviewing a chef called Greg Marchant, Frenchie. So he's got an amazing story about both his parents died in a car crash. He grew up in an orphanage in France, and cooking was his escapism. I was like, this is insane, super interesting. Anyway, the PR person asked to see it. She says, can you ask me the questions? Send me the questions beforehand. And I was like, yeah, no worries. Again, a bit naive. Sent the questions, like, oh, he doesn't want to talk about that, about his childhood and stuff. So I was sat opposite him, above in this kind of like lofty room above Covent Garden. And I just said, look, I want to talk about this. Can we talk about this? And he was like, oh, yeah, that's fine. So the learning there is don't go through the gatekeeper, because the gatekeeper wants to look good.
Yes.
So I'll always just shoot from the hip and
Yes.
just say, because otherwise they have time to think about what's coming up.
Yep.
And I'm like, we can edit it post.
Yeah.
But let's be present and enjoy it
Yeah.
now. So that happens. You do all the prep, and then you walk through. I walk through the Itsu offices, and he's got like an old MacBook, one of the first Mac computers from Steve Jobs in the kind of reception area. Yeah. I was thinking, Jesus Christ. I've got my little suitcase, my Waitrose bag. I've got a bag for life there, mate, which I just used. I nabbed off my mum. She's got all my kit in there. It was quite fun. We did a podcast with the cart the other day, and I was like, got to the office, I was like, better change that bag.
You don't want to tip up with a plastic Ocado bag.
Yeah. And so, and this is what's really interesting, is the Mike Tyson quote, everyone's got a plan to their punch in the face. So with Julian, who was amazing, is you've got all these questions, you'll know this. You have the questions here, but then the guest wants to take you there, and you're playing the game of, I think it's like a game of conversational chess. It's like, I've got this list of questions here, this seems interesting, this could help the audience, this helps my curiosity. So you're playing a game of And at the beginning, you're really clunky at it. The more you do it, it's just becomes.
Why do you think people want to come on the podcast?
Now or early on?
In the middle.
In the middle. Yeah, it's a good question. If I'm being brutally honest, there's not some sort of like deep philosophical answer here. One, social proof works. If I say I've got this illustrious list of founders, which I do, thank for heavens.
Yep.
And I've got that. One, through hard work, yes, but two, I got very lucky with timings with lockdown. It's very easy to get hold of founders in lockdown because what else are you doing? Fuck all.
Yes.
So I got lucky, and I did work hard. So those are the first thing. Second thing, founders have egos. There's no two ways about it. They like honking their horn. That's what I'm saying. I think maybe a better, not a better lens, but a way to answer that is, why do guests come on again? So why are you interviewing me again? Or why are you interviewing me? Why are you coming on again after this? Why has Perry been on 4 times? I think it's because when we talk and I haven't actually thought about this, but I think you get fresh ideas is one, new ways of looking at things, 2, and space. It's the only time, well, not you because you record, like you've got your own podcast, but it's one of the only times in a week where you have space from your senior leadership team, space from your kids, space from your wife or husband, space from the office. And it is kind of that space is so powerful, I think. And then when you go back into the day-to-day of Seasn or Seedlip, I don't know, why are you coming back on again out of interest? Or
Uh-oh, I have just discovered a secret weapon. Please, please, please don't tell anyone. This secret weapon helps you get listed, stay listed, and most importantly, grow. This secret weapon is being used by absolutely banging brands like Bold Bean Co., Perfect Head, Neat, Trip, and Cheeky Panda. No wonder they're absolutely smashing it. But look, are you ready to get your mitts on this secret weapon and absolutely smash it too? I am thrilled, so thrilled to announce our brand new podcast partner, Northstar. What is Northstar, I hear you thinking? Northstar is a monthly subscription to an online platform giving you access to category data, category insights, anytime, any place, anywhere. It's basically the Netflix for challenger brands. It levels the playing field. Why do you need category data? Well, the first thing is making your pitch speak the buyers and retailers language is so important. It's going to help you unlock more listings, unlock deeper distribution with existing clients, back the right MPD, and actually understand how your competition is performing. But the even better news, are you ready to rock and roll at your next range review? You no longer need to hire a full-time category manager. Instead, just parachute in Northstar when your next Waitrose, Sainsbury's or Tesco range reviews coming up. They're your outsourced in-house partner. Save money. Their team will come in. They'll help you prep, plan and smash your next range review. I'm so excited to be partnering with Northstar. Check them out in the episode description below. Delighted to announce the extension of our partnership with the wonderful Billy and Paul from Mackenzie Jones, but even more exciting, they have just launched a brand new brand as part of Mackenzie Jones called MKJ Ignite. MKJ Ignite is a recruitment firm which specializes full shebang, focus entirely on challenge brand space. They work with some incredible brands, Lucky Saint, Good Race, Purdy and Fig, Hunter and Gather, and Real Superfoods. They can support with your hiring needs across all levels, top to bottom, junior entry-level jobs, all the way through up to MD and CEO level. So if you're looking for a field sales stomper, a sales wizard, an ops guru, a supply chain sensei, you name it, MKJ Ignite can help you out. And look, if you're looking to wet your whistle, ignite your curiosity, then check out the poddy we recorded with them back in July. Laden with wisdom, all about like do's and don'ts of hiring and like how to create the perfect job description. You will love it.
I mean, I like you, so I like talking to you. That's what I wouldn't want to come back if I didn't like enjoy talking to you. Like,
okay, yeah.
Plain and simple. I thought it'd be fun to interview you because I, like you, am curious, and so I know you in one role as a host, but I'm here for my own curiosity to understand what goes on behind the scenes on a podcast and your thinking and all of the bits that you don't get to share.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, as you built this kind of following and you've got these great guests, I think it's a good, I don't know, in my opinion, I think it's a good opportunity to pause for you to reflect on how brilliantly you've done and maybe expose some of the thinking behind why you're doing what you're doing and just...
Yeah, it's been super, having this conversation is very cathartic and it's very, not necessarily cathartic, very, creating that space to be like, oh, yeah. Because I'm always thinking of the next thing, always thinking it's not good enough, always thinking like that's...
Yeah, next, and
yeah.
better. And so I think it's, but to give you, I mean, why did I come on your podcast? I think it's rare these days. Long form content is rare, right? Everybody's in a fucking hurry and everything needs to be short, sharp, quick, simple, immediate. And having the chance to go into Seedlip story or how to run a business, how to create culture, all the challenger stuff that when you're running and you're running fast, you don't get those opportunities. You know, who really wants to read a long newsletter? I don't really think people want to from a brand. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like, look, if I want to read something long, I go and read a book, you know? So there's a slight indulgence aspect to it, you know, it feels to kind of talk for longer and go into more detail and it not being media training, you know, journalist press interviews where ultimately a journalist is going to, you know, newsflash, journalists ask the question, doesn't matter what they ask, I'm going to say what I want to say, right? That's media training. And there's an element of that to, you know, coming on your podcast of, well, I need to make sure I say these 5 things. You know, I need to make sure people leave the podcast and are really clear that Seedlip's amazing and they can get it in all these amazing places. Like, they're the bottom lines.
Yeah.
So yeah, I you know, it should be a win-win for people to come on, right?
Media training thing's really interesting. I interviewed a rugby player the other week. Told you.
Yep.
And it'll be interesting to when I interview you or chat to you. And that's the other thing. I frame it as a conversation, not an interview.
Yep.
And that's a really simple reframe. And I think words are really important, but this is a conversation. And, you know, I was interviewing Perry last night and he's like, I was like, mate, just imagine we're at a pub, right?
It's a chat.
Sometimes it takes 20, 30 minutes to get a guest warmed up.
Yep.
And also, you know,
And so how do you break that down? How do you dissolve that? What have you learned? Because this was someone you knew, right? This isn't like a total stranger.
I didn't really know him.
Okay.
We went to school together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he's great, but it's not like, if anything, I was shitting myself. He's like, well, he's 4 years above me. You know, even when you get to like, I'm 30 now, but it's like, he's still 4 yees above me. It's like, this is so ridiculous.
Yes.
But if anything, I was like, I'm just a little shitty 4-former bowling about. Yeah. Yeah. That's basically, if anything, I was more nervous doing that because of all the school stuff.
Yes.
But so that's a really good point. And I think playing stuff back to people really helps. So say you were to say, I was to say, like, I think you did a really good job of it earlier when I was like, I was nervous. And then you just played that I was nervous back. That's basically an invitation to go, there's another door, walk down it. You play something back. So that's the first thing. You do that enough times, people begin to just slow down. The other one, this is not some hack. It's just, it kind of, this will just happen naturally. But if you actually were to examine it, probably is, I'm quite an very open book, and I'll talk about all the gnarly, nefarious things in me. Like I'm very open with that. That helps other people to open up.
Yes.
Massively.
Yes.
To say like, this is, I'm not perfect. This is wrong. Those things happen. I interviewed, again, that's why I can't say who it was, but who's an amazing founder, done amazing things. First hour of that interview was start, stop. And do you hear what is there? It's interview. So it's when, sometimes the issue is when the guest approaches it as this is an interview or a podcast, and I'm thinking this is a conversation. So bridging that, getting the guest to walk across that path to Conversationville, if you want to call it that, can take a while.
And what was the, just to like, on that specific one, and we're recording a podcast at the moment, and so I'm kind of seeing it from the other side. What happened leading up to that first hour? Like, how long did you spend with the guest before you hit record?
That's a really good point. It all depends, and it depends on what they're coming into the frame. So Julian came in really came straight from meeting, had a green tea in his hand, was like, we have to go, and it was like. So the first bit was almost just easing that out. Being like, so we've probably spent 15, 20 minutes chatting just to take that. You're not in a meeting now, you're in a podcast.
Yes, yeah.
And we'll talk about this, but that's why I love learning, going to the best restaurants, going to the best hotels, like all these things, like you learn from maitre d's in front of houses. How do you make someone comfortable? Like all these things I pick up on, right?
Yep.
The hard ones are when there's not much preamble.
Yeah.
Especially on Zoom. Because you're having to build rapport. You're having to build rapport as you're going, which is just so hard.
I made a load of people laugh on Zoom yesterday, and I was just like, "Fucking hell, I'm done. This is amazing. I've managed to make people laugh through a screen. Most of them are even in another country.
You interviewing people?
No, me presenting to people.
What were you presenting?
I was pitching to some investors.
Right.
I managed to make them laugh on Zoom, which I was just like, guys, this is such a hard medium, it's really hard.
Yeah.
And trying to, as you're talking about, have someone feel at ease and safe and comfortable to not answer interview questions and to kind of be there and be a human. Yeah, that's hard.
Yeah, and also I think the other thing is to ask. There's such a rote, mechanical way of asking questions, which is, tell me how Seedlip started.
Yep.
Yeah. What's advice you'd give to your younger self? I don't know why I'm speaking like that, but you know what I mean. So it's pick something so fucking random, and that's why the prep's so important. That straight away it gives you. If you haven't got gravitas, it gives you gravitas. So it's like. Good example. Maybe when I interviewed you, my opening question was, "What's nature to you in one sentence?" It's quite a big question. You're like, okay, this guy's serious, so I need to be serious.
Yes.
Because otherwise, you can just get someone who's just like, this is another interview, this is another conversation.
Yeah, and look, there'll be people listening, I would hope, to this who this will really chime with. When you run a business, and especially in the food and drink space, probably in anything, there's loads of things that you say over and over and over again. And, it might be the answer to where the name comes from, the answer to how it started, the business update on performance, the product information. They're like, there's 50 questions that have stock answers. And I try and, this is not what's recommended, but I cannot say the same thing twice the same way. I have to keep it interesting for myself. Otherwise, I feel like I'm just reading a script, and I feel like a fraud doing that because I don't feel like that's being genuine and respectful to the person that I'm saying it to. It's almost like, you don't fucking matter because I'm just going to regurgitate the stock answer because I just do that on autopilot. And then, so I feel like your approach of, doing great prep and not asking the same stock questions from a interviewee perspective counts for a lot.
Yeah, I think, but again, these are it's not like there is part of it which is like, let's do this to get to get the guests kind of on board or in the moment straight away is part of it. But going back to like the kind of curiosity bits, it's like I'm genuinely just following my curiosity. Mm-hmm. So I was with you. I was like, oh, okay. So Ben's got peas tattooed on his hands, right? Like, he's got a brand all about nature or a nature business. Well, what does nature mean? Like it started as that. It's not like it was like, okay, I need to find a bit to get Ben's attention.
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? It's not, because otherwise that will feel kind of forced.
But they're more enjoyable to talk. Not that people don't enjoy his explaining the product or here's where the name came from or here's how it all started. But there are more interesting things that people want to talk about their businesses or about that journey, for want of a better word. And so you're sort of preaching to the choir there because you're like, oh, he's found something that I'm really passionate about, that I really believe in. Fuck yeah, let's talk about that. Great. Rather than, oh, there's that other question that everyone always asks.
Yeah.
So there's that answer that everyone always gets. It changes.
And I think that, but also what's selling has become so easy. Like, I don't mean that in an arrogant way, but it's like what Joe Rogan's got a quote, which is, if you're scared of anything, go and do stand-up comedy. Because that is so scary and hard that it'll make everything else seem like a piece of piss. Mm-hmm. Interviewing Julian Metcalf was one of the scariest things. Even before I interviewed you, mate, I was like, I've got such imposter syndrome. Do you know what I mean? I was, wasn't smoking, whatever, but like, you have that imposter syndrome. So then when you suddenly go to a sales pitch to sell, I mean, we could talk about sponsorship as well and how to monetize it. That's an interesting story. But going to an Ocado meeting or a waitress meeting, it was like, I'm not nervous anymore because that really helps. And I think the other, and you know what, so why do you keep doing this? Another reason, this is going right back to the beginning, is I was like, this was just going to get me better at sales.
Yeah.
Was another kind of why in the engine of why you're doing this.
It's like communication, and it's, in the broadest sense of the word, sales, right? It's sales, right? You are getting someone to do something.
Yeah.
And then you're creating a product and you're distributing it.
Yeah.
Like in plonky literal terms.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant sales exercise in that sense. And it sounds like for you, it's been a brilliant sort of learning, growing up. And I don't mean that in a really fucking condescending way. Confidence builder.
Oh, yeah. That's such a good point. Is huge confidence builder, and I think only now, from sort of stopping drinking for 3 months, even though tonight's the night I'm going out.
Booze.
I'm going out with the old Manny Life lot tonight, so it will probably be a bit boozy, but that's been a big help as well, in terms of sort of finding that inner peace, which when you're like drinking lots, it kind of escapes you. Do you know what I mean? Or it's a mirage in the distance that you're trying to cling on to. But it was definitely a confidence builder, massively a confidence builder. And it gives you, I don't know, I think I call it the trough of sorrow, which is a morbid way of saying it, Paul Graham. But there's that moment, and I love looking at the graph because it just goes boom, 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 up, down, 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 down.
Yep.
But it's that grit. And actually, it's like the reason I did it and the reason I kept pushing through that is I was like, this is sick if this gets monetized. This is sick if this becomes a full thing, which is mad now it is, right? But at the time, it was like, this is getting me better at sales, which improves my job. I'm meeting interesting people, which improves my network, and I'm building confidence. That's enough.
Yeah, that's a pretty big win.
Yeah, and I think,
how many episodes have you done now?
Well over 100, maybe 130.
Since when? Since 2020?
2020. The first, I mean, they were so sporadic to begin with. I'd do 1 month where I release 3 in a month and then just take 2 months off and not release one. I had none of this. I mean, you're being super smart with like pre-bulk your content.
Yeah, but that's also a massive risk, right? You're like, do loads of stuff, spend loads of effort, take loads of time, zero fucking idea whether it's going to work or people are going to listen to it.
I mean, maybe we'll save this when I record, actually.
Yeah, don't start interviewing me.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I am so excited. It feels like Hungary is finally swimming in the big leagues. I can't believe this. It's absolutely mental. But delighted to announce that Big Fish, yes, Big Fish, are part of the podcast. Perry's been on the podcast 3 times. Listeners absolutely love it. Some of our most downloaded and cherished episodes of all time. But Big Fish are behind literally so many brands in your cupboard, in your weekly shop. Charlie Bigham, Year Valley, Tyrrell's, Clipper Tea, Goo, Rana. I mean, mate, the list is longer than the River Nile. But they also share risk and invest in brands that they really believe are a force for good. That are brands that they believe are going to be the next big thing, like Howder, the snack that gives back. But even more exciting news, Big Fish want to speak to the next wave of small challenger food and drink brands that are destined for big things, the raconteurs, the movers, shakers, buccaneering visionaries. So look, if you want to speak to Big Fish and just have a chat, get your brand in front of them, then drop me a message. My mate Louis from Local Beer, Amazing Beer, was in their office, aka La Fish Bowl, last week chatting to Perry, Freddie and the Big Fish crew. So drop me a message if you would like to speak to them. Boemi, our beloved sponsor, are helping build the fastest growing challenger food and drink brands. Look, if you're a small brand just starting out and you need your first indie stockist, your first 100 stockists to wholesale, Boemi are the platform to categorically speed that up. But if you're a big brand wanting to get bigger, Boemi are also insane. They make field sales marble smooth, silky slick. They're just epic. Ollie's been on this podcast twice actually. They saw a 29% uplift in sales when using Boemi to check major malt listings availability. Insane. 29% uplift by downloading an app. Insane. Lucky Saint, my boy Aaron Duff, who's coming on this podcast in a couple of weeks, he uses it to manage a team of 30 people, and they've, Lucky Saint, have unlocked 500 draft listings by using Boemi. Look, you've got to get involved with this stuff. It's absolutely insane, and it will categorically change your life. It's just the sickest platform. I use it all the time at Islands.
Why food and drink? I know you said right at the beginning, I love my food, but why your career, the podcast, why food and drink?
Why food and drink? I think because I've always loved food. I mean, it's like a much deeper level, like more about a plate of food is hilariously how you said nature is everything. I really believe a plate of food is everything. Mm-hmm. It's like when you get that food, it's a kind of a moment and a vehicle for. There's 2 sides. There's say you're consuming the food, there's the table consuming the food. You get the grit, the determination, the pulling of nature, the supply chain, the farmers, like that is life, goes into that one plate. And then you have the single-mindedness, the grit, the determination, and this is whether it's a plate of food or a brand, for example. the kind of determination, the everything, and the team that goes into building that, the brigade of chefs or the brigade of the brand, goes into building that one moment, and that is art, it's creativity, and that thing, that vessel of everything, kind of gets ready, and gets given to someone, and that piece of food or that plate of food can be there, can like help people. Can be a moment to pause for people, can be a moment to celebrate, can be a moment to when you're sad, when you're jubilant, funerals, weddings, there's always food, always food. When the Queen dies, there's food. When the King's not incarcerated, what's the word? Whatever, there's food. And I think that, and it's been like that since the beginning of time. Food's never changed.
But it's just listening to you talking about all the grit, the care, the determination, the time, the effort, the farming, the supply chain. And now I'm just sat there thinking, you're talking, visualizing this sort of plate of food. And then, I don't know, I'm one of the quickest eaters I've ever come across, right? Because growing up with 2 other brothers and at school, like you don't eat fast enough, you don't get any more food. So I eat really quickly, and I don't talk when I eat, and I don't drink when I eat. So when I've got that plate of food for me, that eating experience is actually nothing to do with anybody else, and it's not. I've finished because other people are talking. And then I can talk, and then I can have a drink. But yeah, that plate of food piece is massively all-consuming. But then I'm sat here thinking, well, and it's gone, right? And it's eaten, and it's consumed. And you think about all the effort and time that has gone into this thing that is so, as you're talking about, which I'm loving, like so all-encompassing. And it's over.
This is really deep, and we're going into deeper waters. But it's almost like that's like life.
Yes.
Like in the grand scheme of things, it's like we think we're here for a long time, but it's a very fleeting moment, and then bang. But then guess what? The next plate of food comes.
Yep.
The next cow is milked or cut up.
Yep.
But like it keeps going.
Yes.
And food is almost this little moment. And I'm like you. I scoff my face. Like I'm not I'm a glutton, and I will kind of just not even come up for fucking air. Especially if I'm at a curry house, mate, you ain't getting near me. And I'm also like one of those, I'm like the corporal of the masala. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, get your fucking hands off those chops, pal. Like, I've got my eyes on them, and I've got my eyes on those samosas as well.
I'm not a big sharer.
Yeah. But even so, it's that moment. I think brands can have that ability as well. They're not. That's why I love interviewing chefs and founders. I think they're the two marry up really nicely. But I think with a brand is you have more, instead of it being like a moment, like a moment when you're in a restaurant and you're consuming the food, it's a brand is really interesting because it has way more opportunities, i.e. if it's really tastes really good, weekly, daily, to tell that story. Whereas with a chef, it's kind of like, unless you're going back to that restaurant, and there's not both are right. There's not one.
Yes.
But it's just there's two different tapestries of how to tell that story. But it's the same thing, really.
You go and eat in I feel really lucky that I've eaten in some incredible places and had incredible, memorable experiences that are, some of them would be like once in a lifetime. I'm probably never gonna go back to those restaurants. But then on the flip side, we're talking about white masao. I've probably just fucking murdered that word, but
white mouse soup. Yeah.
White mouse soup.
Yeah.
That's in our house anyway. That's like a daily moment of glory, right?
Yes.
Because just getting it on anything and everything, and it's different from being with my wife, in Noma during game season, and sitting there in the restaurant with the overwhelming feeling that I needed to touch her tummy because for some reason I thought she was pregnant. And doing that and saying to her, I think you're pregnant, and then her doing a test and her being pregnant, you know, that kind of, there's that sort of mind blown, holy shit, we'll always remember that kind of experience for lots of reasons. So yeah, I'm a total believer in the slight transcendental aspect of what a plate of food
and a brand, and I think it's
can do.
And then the other part of this is we obsess with fantasy and stories as human beings. Harry Potter, Lord
of the Rings.
Insert whatever weird fantasy you have. Maybe that's not right I'm saying it, but and magic and the mystical and myth, like the hero's journey, Joseph Campbell. Like we're obsessed with myth and these magical things. It's like, yeah, but I genuinely believe magic is right in front of you. Creating different dishes and flavors is literally magic every single day. I mean, and that's amazing. Do you know how fucking sick that is? You can, it's taking a step back and actually looking at the alchemy of creating a different plate of food or following a recipe. Following a recipe is a magic trick, and then you get to eat it. And I genuinely believe eating a banging meal and you just eat it and it just sends everything going, and you're like, wow, like that is just mad. And I asked this to chefs, is food art or magic is a question I ask. And they all say art. They say the art, they say the food is art and the service is the magic. Which I kind of get.
Yeah.
I kind of get. But I
yeah, it's the difference between how you feel eating the same plate of food, you know, in a cubicle somewhere in a fucking shitty festival, God knows what, with it pissing down with rain, versus eating it in a top restaurant. Like, it's gonna taste different.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And I think, but I do think I agree with them on that regard. But I still think it's magic. Like to get those.
Are you a good cook?
I was, and then now I've moved home. I don't know how I was. I was, and then I had a lobotomy, and it all went.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, that I was a good cook.
Do you like cooking?
I do like cooking. Now I've moved back home with my parents for a bit, I'll be honest, like my mum does the fucking spag bowl. Do you know what I mean? I'm not going to mess about with that. But
do you like your mum's cooking?
I do, yes. It needs to be seasoned more. Well, we'll talk about that later. But that was a joke, by the way. But total fucking madman. So like when I was living with my mate, he'd come in, he's a stockbroker, worked around here. Yeah. And he was very much like, I'm gonna get some chicken breasts, I'm gonna do an avocado, and I'm gonna put some Nando's sauce in it, and you're away. He'd come in and walk in the kitchen and be like, Pope, mate, what are you doing? I'd have like...
Ready, steady, cook.
I'd have like an ottolenghi book there, I'd have another book there, I'd be trying to spend 5 hours on ottolenghi kind of aubergine side dish, and then do like a BBC Food, total carnage, total mess, very messy, but loved it. And I think so to answer your question, not a good cook.
Okay.
Like I'm not going to sit here and say, Matt, I'm doing fucking mean.
Rustled it up.
Yeah, what's that everyone that makes a olive that olive pasta that's puttanesca, God, the most private school fucking dish around. Yeah. But so not like that, but would go wild with trying loads of different things.
Okay. That's so not a good cook, but do you enjoy the process of cooking? Sounds like you liked having a go.
Yeah. And actually I think in terms of the
doesn't Hungary do you have a supper club, or am I making that up?
Have a supper club, yeah.
You have a supper club as well.
You want to come a bit closer to that?
Yeah, sorry, mate.
Have a supper club. we kind of pick a restaurant. So we've done it at Coal Rooms, we've done it at Caravan, we've done it Caravan, Coal Rooms. Then we did one in Ramona in Manchester, one of the best places I've ever been to. You been up there?
No, I haven't.
Mate, it is. So the guys who have owned it, Manchester's amazing at the minute. We did an event with the Co-op there, but like it's basically a Detroit pizza place, and then it turns into this drag kind of hacienda party, like vroom vroom vroom, and you're just like, I mean, the Co-op had left by this point.
Yes.
Yeah, all the buyers, and there's loads of sort of drag kind of fucking things going on. That was very much the after, at sort of 11 o'clock, it turns into a different beast. But that, I'm trying to think what I was talking about. Not what I was talking about, where I was going.
Food,
eating,
cooking, supper club.
Oh, that was it. Supper club. That was it. So we did one there. But going back to the cooking, I love the curiosity and the creativity of it. And actually, what I like about food, again, another kind of life lesson in cooking, is Nish goes right back to what we were talking about at the beginning. Of do you follow the curriculum or do you follow your curiosity? How you cook, like when I was moving out, I'd have a recipe there, but I'm like, right, I'm going to sort of go off piste here. I think that's a great lesson of life. Of like, do you follow the recipe or do you go off piste?
Baking.
Apart with baking, yeah. And with that approach, failure or success. I think Seth Godin talks about this, about the reason he likes cooking so much, or like just going so weird with his cooking, is it's a great reminder that some just shipping work, shipping podcast episodes, shipping, going out and selling your brand, whatever, some will be good, some will be bad, but just keep doing it.
Yes.
And I think that's with cooking, that's what you get from it. And that's what I do miss from when I was living in London is doing that every day, whereas now I'm so busy with this that I'm like fucking banging as a plate of food. And, I'm very grateful.
In me.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mum.
Yeah.
Here's the seasoning.
Here's my washing as well.
My bed, mate.
Yeah. Lift the station.
Why did you decide to go full time on this? And how was that?
So I was in Lisbon and I'd basically sort of left Manny Life and which was amazing, 5 years there, which was sick. Like that's where I got the real buzz for seeing what it's like to be in a team.
Yes.
Like that was amazing.
Yeah.
Met some amazing people who I'm seeing tonight. But then it got to a point, it's like, do I do the podcast or do I stick around? And then I sort of thought, do I build a brand? Do I actually launch a brand? A lot of people say to me, why haven't you launched a brand?
Yeah.
And
a product.
A product.
A food and drink.
A product, yeah.
Yeah.
So
you have a brand.
Yeah, so a product. so the
You are a founder.
Yeah. It's like therapy for me, mate.
Exactly, man.
And
giving your subconscious fucking
yeah.
curveballs.
And so when I launch a product, I think you need a big dose of naivety. Naivety is momentum. I knew how hard it was to build a brand because I'd seen that.
Yes.
Or build a product, if that's the right way of saying, or get a brand in grocery. I was like, that's fucking hard. And also, I was like,
a physical thing.
And I was like, okay, so what am I going to go all in on? So if I don't think right now in my life I could be the best in the world at creating a product to go into a supermarket. One, I'm knackered. Two, I've got this podcast, which is setting me on alive on fire. That's whatever you say it. And also, like, I don't want to be on the phone to a warehouse like Lenham's saying, "Where's my order? Has it not gone to the central depot in Waitrose?"
Yeah.
I don't want to raise money. I want to follow my curiosity.
Yep.
I don't want to manage people. I want to manage. This sounds really David Brent. I want to manage my curiosity. But
Brilliant.
Yeah, I've said it. But want to do that, and I want to be able to go around the world. Going to Colombia in 2 weeks. 2 weeks I'll be in Colombia. That's what I want to do right now. And I believe, there's multiple iterations of what you can do. Like, and we're going to talk about this. Like, Seedlip was a movie or a book.
Yeah.
But that finished, and then you've gone on to Seasn, right? And
It's chapters.
It's chapters. So I think for this chapter, I was like, I want to try, and I may not, but if I can go quadruple in on this, and just work like a demon, and like I don't get tired. Like, I can work all day on this, and it's easy. Whereas to go and find a brand, find investment, come up with a name.
Don't do it. It's painful.
And so, but I want to do that eventually.
Okay. You do want to have your own physical.
Yeah, but whether that may not be an actual food and drink product. So things I've thought about is.
Let's just get my pen and paper out.
Yeah. So things I've thought about is hungry as. And these are just ideas, right? So this will all change by tomorrow, by the time we finish the conversation.
Don't hold into it.
So I think I want to create a business book that looks like a cookbook, like looks like a coffee table cookbook. So you have it in every Challenger brand office, and it's like, okay, page 5, Ben Branson. This is his recipe for hiring. Your 7 questions. Like, that would be sick, and it's like fucking thick, looks amazing, looks like a cookbook. You know, a cookbook's a piece of art.
Yeah.
I think that would be a sick product. I think
Mugs.
not necessarily mugs, but like I would love to get some sort of artist who does these mugs. But like, it's more, I mean, pottery is probably the right way of saying it. But why not? Everyone has coffee cups in the office. Why not have some lessons from guests on there? So, I mean, I probably wouldn't put this on a pottery cup, but James Bailey, availability is, you know, if you're not all over availability, it's like scoring an own goal. Like, if a sales manager sees that as they're about to jump on a fucking phone call to the co-op supply chain, that's how I'm thinking. So it's like, how do you create products that able that journey? The other thing is like getting artists to create like some of those learnings into something that would go in an office. So that's one part of the product piece I've thought about.
Yep.
I've obviously thought about straight up doing a brand.
Yep.
Or a product under sort of, which I think I will do eventually. The other thing is almost doing the finding, and I really believe this is, I've waxed lyrical about this, but chefs moving in to products is huge.
Yes.
Tom Straker into all things butter. Angela Hartnett's just done something with Bella Zoo.
Yeah,
Jim Carner.
Jim Carner just launched their product
I think
range.
I would love to find. I interviewed Tommy Banks. You know Tommy Banks, the chef.
Yeah.
He's got Banks Brothers Wine.
Yes.
The Fallow guys have Sriracha.
Yes.
I'd love to go to someone like Paul Ainsworth and say, Paul, you've got the following, you've got the gravitas, you've got the flavor profile. Let's get a brand into retail, and then almost go in as a co-founder, leverage the network I've built from the podcast. That's an interesting play.
Yep.
And then another interesting play would be, but I think that would almost do like what you've done, so almost not close this chapter, but have something bubbling for 5 or 6 years, and then just strike.
Yeah.
Hi guys, super quick one. So excited. Look, for years I've been badgering on about Hungry, the podcast. You're probably bored to death. Thanks for putting up with me. But Hungry is also an agency, and we look after one amazing brand called Islands Chocolate. We've had a great time over the year. We've won listings at a load of wholesalers. We've won Milk and More. We've got our first grocery listing coming very soon, which is very sick. But what I'm thrilled to announce is Hungry is merging with HC Consulting. My boy Harry Clark and his wonderful team, he's an absolute G. They do brand strategy, new business and account management. But why I really love working with Harry and why we've got on so well over the last couple of months is Harry was actually the founder of the boozy isolate brand Pops. So he's been in the trenches, he's grafted his face off, he's had the sleepless nights, he's had the turmoil, he's had the triumph, he knows what it is to be a founder, he is a founder. And he's got a proven track record in grocery and out of home. Holy moly dips, the gut stuff, Savile drinks, Remio gelato. So if you're a brand and you're stuck, you're looking for like new business help, you're looking to scale, drop us a message. We'd love to chat. Thank you so much. Back to the old episode.
Yeah, because I think it's harder to do this with a food and drink product because of all the work that goes into it. But I love restaurants that just fucking close and Phoenix and kind of reinvent themselves and reopen and keep it fresh and change. And I think that's harder to do for food and drink brands where you're making this physical thing that's got a whole supply chain attached to it, and you can't just close it down one day and then start another one. But I like hearing, the first few things that you were talking about there. A lot of that sounds like that's, in line with the podcast in terms of like giving back, and it sort of feels like, you're trying to sort of recycle this wisdom and recycle the learnings so that the sales manager, as you said, is got something on his coffee cup before his meeting, not the idiot's guide to food and drink brands, but the Hungry Book being that kind of reference point of collating and pooling. And I'm sure this is what the talk that you give is about when you talk about your reflections of like, here's the kind of distilled and filtered down, here's what you need to know. Because I've done all the work and I've heard all the things and I'm now translating it into something that's easy for you.
You know the Pirelli book, the famous,
yes,
with the famous models on it,
yes,
and it's a juggernaut book, which is, for listeners, it's like a book with loads of models on there. But it's like it's a kind of, you walk in to a place, and if that book's on the table, and there's probably numerous other examples, it's like, they're kind of, it says a lot about that. I would love to for a situation in 5 years' time, if it's like someone goes to an interview for Seasn or for like insert the blank dash, Pippin up, whatever, and it's like that book on the table sort of says like we're a serious brand. Like that would be really like fulfilling to me.
Hey, look, everybody that joined Seedlip, so we had, in total, we hired 120 people over the first 3.5 years, and everybody that joined got 3 books, right? And that was, ironically, what you didn't get was like, here's a bottle of Seedlip.
What books?
So there was Brutal Simplicity of Thought by M.C. Saatchi, which takes about 5 minutes to read, and basically says it takes a fuckload more work, time, effort to make something simple. Most people don't bother. So most of the world is confused and cluttered and complicated. And that's why only a few brands, products, people, ideas actually succeed and cut through. It's because they've done the work before putting something out there. Second one was Dave Trott's Predatory Thinking.
Oh, he's so good.
I'm such a massive fanboy of his.
Has he got that 1 + 1 = 3?
Yep.
Yeah. But his writing is brilliant.
His writing is brilliant. And that was just all about telling stories beautifully and simply and succinctly that moved people. And he writes short stories, but the way that David Hyatt definitely is in that sort of camp of storytelling, of you don't need to write kind of lots of words to tell a really great story and move somebody. And books shouldn't be fucking judged on how long they are, how much they cost. Anyway, that's an aside. So yeah, that, and then holy shit, I've forgotten the third one. It could have been Dan's book from Stone Barnes, Third Plate. That could have been one of them. It's all about just the magic of nature and eating fantastic produce. Fuck, that's annoyed me. I can't remember the third one. But yeah, they the Hungry Book could have been one of those books. Do you know what I mean?
And I think I'd want it to be massive, so it looks like it. Like I don't know why. I don't know why, but like just almost like, not that it takes up the whole thing, but just.
Yeah, but what about to play devil's advocate to you? What about the pocket guide? What about hold on a minute, I'm the sales manager. I haven't seen the mugs. It's not done the fucking mugs yet.
Yeah.
Where's my handy little guide?
Well, that's the. I mean, if you're really teasing this out, you could go into you do like a sales one. You do a thing. I was joking about this yesterday, but creating, and this is just teasing ideas out, but another podcast called Thirsty, obviously Hungry Thirsty, that would be jokes, but, or Famished, I couldn't do that, that would be pushing the boat out, but
yes.
But I think there's a lot of interesting spaces you can play with.
But it's building out Hungry as a platform, right?
Yeah.
So, I guess there's a sort of spidergram way in which you can take it into lots of different directions.
I think the hardest bit at the minute is focus.
Okay.
The other thing is potentially like a fund is one thing I've thought about, because I've thought about some of my mates who I know are sick founders. Like they've got the legs to build the brand. I can see it. They've got the kind of, one was at AB and Bev. The category's interesting. It's a brand called Local Beer. Local as in playing on the local, going for local pint, and then also low calories. They need access to investors. This is literally, I've got a meeting with them after this, right? So this is just teasing things out.
Yeah.
That could be interesting.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of different ways to skin the cat. But what you can, and I am having to sort of put myself in a straight jacket of focus, because I'm the sort of guy, until recently, would go and sort of fiddle around with those 10 things. And it's like, you've got to hit Monday, you've got to hit Friday, podcast Monday, and just keep the main thing.
Yep.
Like, keep putting the content out there.
It's a real muscle to build, isn't it?
So hard. And that's what I mean, we'll explore when I chat with you shortly, is how you do that. Because I think once you've got to a situation where you're in, which is amazing, where you've built and sold, you've now kind of got the gravitas. We've got huge gravitas of but your name's synonymous with that alcohol-free space. Is you can kind of take the blinker off slightly, and you've got the time and the resource to try different things. At the minute, I don't, or I don't, but also it just takes away from the main thing, and at some point it won't.
It won't, because you understand that the main thing and the main focus has to be what you're doing now.
Yeah.
And the shiny baubles will be there, right? They're not going anywhere. All the shiny things and toys that you want to play with, they're not going anywhere. It's not cold for Christmas, don't worry, mate. You have to but you do just have to be a good boy and keep that focus, because you'll be rewarded for it, and you'll get the opportunity to play with the shiny toys and the book and the mugs and funds, all that good stuff.
There's an alcohol-free beer brand, which I won't say who it is, but probably people can guess it. But they've just done one product really, really, really well for a very long time, and that's worked, and their value is just do one thing well. Whereas now they're changing it to do the right thing well, because they've hit a point where you have to be, there's different, on that curve to growth, there's different stages. I think do one thing well is quite, if you just do that for 50 years, fuck me, you're going to be bored, right? But if you try and do too many things too early, then you're just going to be going around like a headless chicken. They've done the one thing well, and they've got probably here, for listeners quite high up the curve, they're at a point now where that has to change to do the right thing well. So out of the kind of the trunket or the bucket of new shiny toys, what's the right thing? Okay, let's do the right thing well, that unlocks that next stage of growth. But it's just knowing where you are on that curve. Right now I'm here, and I have to just keep cranking out the reps. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
But yeah, it's
and then you can play with the new toys.
Yeah.
Well, I very much look forward to following you. If I wasn't so excited for you for Hungry, I'd be trying to get you to come and work for me. But because I've got a lot of time for you, and I think I love the way that your brain works. I like the way you think. I think your passion and your commitment and just kind of, for want of a better word, hunger for this is amazing. And you're putting in the fucking time, and you're putting in the hard yards, and you're seeing that be rewarded because of the caliber of guests that you get on there. And so I think that's amazing. Well done.
Appreciate that. And thank you for we'll wrap this up. This here, then we'll have a breather, and then go back in for part 2.
Yeah.
Mate, that was sick, and it was so nice I feel like in a safe enough space with you to talk about things I haven't talked about.
Yeah.
Which was cathartic. I think also having that moment of pause to be like, okay, this is like all those ideas I've been like, I need to do these tomorrow. It's like what you've just said there. It's like, well, just give yourself the space. And
but because you were doing this, on your own, how often do you get to? I know you write a lot, and you obviously talk to people a lot, but and I'm sure there's people that you do talk to about Hungry, but I doubt you've ever had. How long have we just talked for?
That's what I'd bring it from now. Hour and 41.
How many times have you talked about Hungry for an hour and 40 minutes about how it's been, what you want to do? Like, you don't get that time, and so I think it's a good, important thing to do.
Yeah, no, it's I haven't.
Yeah,
ever.
and I would, I'm interested to hear it. That's why I wanted to chat to you. So I would hazard a guess that other people will be interested, and especially the people that you've invited on and had on. Yeah, I think it gives you the other side of the table.
Mm. Well, mate, it's been a joy. Let's wrap this up, get some coffee, and then
and then ding ding, round 2.